Hi guys, we're going to talk about chapter 9. And chapter 9 is going to walk us through how managers use time management to be successful leaders. Optimizing time management must include priority setting, managing and controlling crisis, and balancing work and personal time. And all of these require some degree of both leadership skill and management function. And I think you can see after last week's activity that priority setting and controlling those just situational crises are going to be a huge part of this time management. So let's get started here. Time management can be defined as making optimal use of available time. Think about all the things you have to do in a day and feeling like there's never enough time in the day to do it all. Appropriate time management requires management functions and leadership skills, which we've already kind of hit on. There is a close relationship between time management and stress. Good time management skills allow an individual to spend time on things that matter. The problem may not be that the individuals are time poor, but they are poorly using time. So just understand that difference. This slide shows us symptoms of poor time management, and if leadership or management find themselves with poor time management, looking to see where improvements can be made is vital. So when you look at this list of these poor time management symptoms, are they caught in that crisis mode? Are they constantly missing deadlines? Do they have a sense of being overwhelmed by demands and details? This just might indicate to you that they have poor time management skills. Planning and prioritizing is first in the cyclic steps because without good planning, errors and poor time management occur. During planning, there needs to be time to think about how plans will be translated into action. So this just reminds us that two mistakes common in planning are underestimating the importance of a daily plan and then not allowing adequate time for that planning. The key to optimizing time management include prioritizing duties, managing and controlling crises, reducing stress, and again, balancing that work and personal time. So I've said that a couple of times. So obviously that's important information on how to optimize that time management. All of these activities require leadership skills and management functions. Time management requires a three-step cyclic process. The process is considered cyclic because all three of these steps must be accomplished sequentially. The process starts with planning and establishing priorities. The second step entails completing the highest priority task and then finishing one task before beginning another. And then that final step is reprioritizing what tasks will be accomplished based on remaining tasks and new information that may have been received. So remember your steps. So when we think about priority setting, this is perhaps the most critical skill in good time management because all actions we take have some type of relative importance. One simple means of prioritizing what needs to be accomplished is to divide all requests for our time into three categories. And those three categories are don't do later, and do now. The don't do items are usually tasks that will take care of themselves or better accomplished by somebody else. We can delegate these items. The do later items may need to be broken down into smaller projects with a specific timeline and plan to achieve the request. And the do now items usually include the day-to-day operational needs such as staffing, equipment usage and shortages, meeting schedules, interviews, and performance appraisals. When we think about the do now category, the leader manager sets priorities that are critical for the day-to-day operations, but can also prioritize for monthly or weekly items that take precedence over tasks. And this can be done by making lists. When we think about making lists, we need to remember lists are utilized as planning tools and can and should be flexible. This means also remembering that each task on the list needs adequate time to complete with built-in time for any unexpected obstacles that may come up. Re-examine tasks each day as items on the list will remain from day to day. This also gives the leader the chance to examine and reprioritize those tasks still left. Leaders may need to break down larger tasks into smaller tasks in order to get those larger tasks done. Leaders also must be aware that daily lists must be able to be reasonably done each day. Think about a time when you had a large task to do and didn't get it accomplished because it was overwhelming. Would breaking the task down in smaller steps on a list been more beneficial and help eliminate the procrastination you may have done because of that overwhelming feeling? Even the most well-planned out nurses can seem disorganized if the work environment isn't conducive to efficient time management. Some suggestions that could assist nurses in the work environment that would improve planning when obstacles are in place might include gathering all supplies needed before starting an activity. This will help identify what supplies and equipment will be needed. Group activities that are in the same location. If you have to walk a long distance down the hallway, attempt to do several things there before going back to the nurse's station. Grouping those activities will minimize travel time and maximize patient time. Use time estimates. If you know a certain task will take a certain amount of minutes, then planning other activities that could be accomplished during that time frame. So if you have an IV medication that's going to be administered over 30 minutes, what other activities can get done during that half hour? Document nursing interventions as soon as possible after they are completed. Waiting until the end of the day increases your risk of inaccuracies or incomplete documentation. And always strive to end the workday on time. Using appropriate delegation and making sure workload goals are reasonable are two strategies that will help the workday end on time. So daily planning actions to maximize our time management. Unit managers, like staff nurses, have to coordinate how their daily responsibilities will be carried out to make work simpler and more efficient. Daily planning that may help managers identify time as a resource most efficiently might include identification of key priorities to be accomplished and the expected level of achievement of that task. Assess your assigned staff, and this can help determine tasks that can be delegated. Review short and long-term plans. Plan ahead for meetings, making sure agendas are done and distributed. People's time are important, and being respectful of their time is essential. Allow time to assess the progress. This will help determine how goals are progressing or if unanticipated events are altering those tasks. And make sure you take regular breaks. This allows staff to refresh physically and mentally. And the only other thing that I want to go back and say is remembering people's time is important. Make sure you're punctual, that you're on time for those meetings. Because remember, if you're not punctual, it doesn't really indicate to everybody else that their time is important to you. Things happen that interrupt our best laid out plans. When that happens, we have to reprioritize our plans so that we can still accomplish our goals. We have to use leadership skills like flexibility when we are interrupted or a crisis happens, and we need to update those plans. We all know that no amount of planning is going to prevent an occasional crisis. There are many time wasters, but 5 time wasters that warrant special attention are technology, social, paperwork overload, a poor filing system, and interruptions. So when we talk about technology, we think of technology as a time saver, right? We can quickly get on the internet, we can find information, all of that good stuff. Most people think it is a time saver, but think about that instantaneous email, the unlimited access to science knowledge, that unlimited access to social networking. Those have really created opportunities for communicating in real time and can suck people in as time wasters. They can consume more and more of our time. Before we know it, we've spent a lot of time on technology and lost a lot of time that we could have been utilizing. When we think about socializing, we know that developing relationships is important between our peers and our managers. But managers that keep that open door policy in a workday can tremendously deter any productivity. Paperwork overload can be solved by the manager that becomes an expert at handling excessive paperwork. An adequate filing system can also help with that paper overload, but it can be overwhelming if the filing system is a poor system. And the last time waster is those interruptions. And this typically occurs with that open door policy. Right, we like that open door policy, but think about the manager who has someone coming in and then leaving, and someone coming in and leaving. What is happening to their productivity? So managers have to be well versed in interrupting the employee that might be rambling on and on and on, and just say, what exactly are you saying, right? So we can shut that rambling down, shut our time wasting down, and then keep on with our day. So what are some personal characteristics of individuals that waste time? And this might be the person that does not understand time planning, that cannot distinguish what is important from what is not important, that underestimates time and effort needed to accomplish the task. Maybe we think it's going to be not take too much time, and then all of a sudden it takes way more time than we think. Maybe it's that person that makes too many rules or procedures or approvals. Remember, we've already talked with organizations, the fewer the rules, the better. What if this person is anxiety is so high and it's really just planning, it's really just taking that time away because planning robs that energy. Or it might be the person that does not look at the standards of work necessary. So how many of you are procrastinators? How many of you procrastinate certain tasks but are able to disseminate which tasks need to be done now? I'll be the first one to admit that I will procrastinate on certain things because it's overwhelming to think about. So I'll get other things done until eventually I have to do it. When we talk about procrastination, we think about those tasks that we put off until later. Procrastination suggests that we put value to our tasks, and doing something else outweighs the value of doing it now. Procrastination is not a character flaw, but is a set of behaviors which were developed over a period of time. And these behaviors can be changed. Procrastination is sometimes caused by perfectionism. Perfectionists may postpone starting a project because they feel overwhelmed by the sheer amount of energy it's going to take them to do something perfectly. So remember that if you're a perfectionist, and in my mind there are times that I am, I do tend to procrastinate. And is that you? And it's not a character flaw, it's just something you have to work on in yourself. The dread of doing a task uses more time and energy than doing that task. Some projects are not accomplished because they are not broken down into manageable tasks. And maybe the next time you're procrastinating something, you break it down into smaller chunks and then it doesn't seem so overwhelming. Personal time management refers in part to self-knowledge. Self-awareness is a leadership skill. Managing time is difficult if a person is unsure of his or her priorities for time management, including personal short-term, intermediate, and long-term goals. A lack of punctuality, we've talked about, suggests that you do not value other people's time. When individuals lack self-awareness, they will find it difficult to find a balance between time spent on personal and professional priorities. There are 12 habits that should be nurtured for optimum personal time management. These habits are directed at being self-aware of what is important to accomplish in one's life, staying focused on the things that matter, taking care of oneself, and following through in a timely and consistent manner. And these habits are listed here, and you can find them in more detail in Chapter 9 on display 9.6. So just be aware of Brand's 12 habits, and they're also in your book. A time inventory will help individuals gain some insight on how much time is spent on a particular task and when the individual is most productive during a day. This time inventory can be used to objectively identify patterns, but this may take several days or several weeks. And as we finish up this chapter, taking breaks is important for the leader. Taking regular scheduled breaks from work is important as they allow the worker to refresh both physically and mentally. And that concludes Chapter 9. If you have any questions, you can send me an email or we can chat about it in class. Thanks, guys.